Welcome to Trust Talks with BBB Serving CT. I'm Kristen Johnson. You know, in business, trust talks, and Better Business Bureau's mission is to enhance marketplace trust. In each one of our episodes, we hope to give you a better understanding of what to expect, what to look for, and what to watch out for so you can spend your money wisely and avoid being scammed. Well, 'tis the season for giving. 40% of charitable donations are received during the last few weeks of the year. This is also when scammers try to take advantage using high-pressure sales tactics to get people in the giving spirit to donate to a charity that simply doesn't exist. Now, to help us navigate this time of year is Katie Parrott. Katie, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Katie is the Volunteer and Emergency Disaster Services Coordinator for Salvation Army of Connecticut. We're so happy to have you here to kind of walk us through the do's and don'ts of charity donation. First,
Sure.
Katie, I know you've been with Salvation Army here in Connecticut for 15 years.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about your role.
Sure. So I started off in more of an administrative role at one of our local locations in Manchester, Connecticut. After a few years there, they created a new position for an assistant camp director for our youth camping program out in Ashford, Connecticut. So I served in that role for about 7 years, and then almost coming into my 4.5, 5 years into the volunteer coordinator position that slowly transitioned into the volunteer coordinator and emergency disaster services coordinator role at our headquarters, which oversees both Connecticut and Rhode Island.
That is a mouthful. We're going to talk about ways to give back with your time a little later on. But first, I think most viewers have heard of the Salvation Army, but give us a brief overview of the history of the organization and how the services are used today. I know it's been around for a long time.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, first and foremost, the Salvation Army was a church. So in 1865, when it was founded by William Booth, it actually started internationally in London, England. He wanted to take his ministry into the streets, and he wanted to serve people, help them with clothing, with food, just get them off of any kind of issues they were encountering in life, and just wanted to be a good support system. And so he started the Salvation Army and slowly built over time with all the programs, and then slowly from internationally over here into the States as well. And we are in over 130 countries as it stands to date. So we're very much expanded. Our program has continued to grow and to evolve. And so we are a church, but also a social service agency at the same time. And so we always welcome people to come to church services, but we also offer emergency financial assistance, holiday assistance, anything that folks are needing, whether it's clothing donations or furniture to furnish their house, emergency funds, whatever it might be. We have a solution to help solve that.
You know, it sounds like even though you've grown and expanded over all those years, at its core, the mission has really remained unchanged, which is to help people.
Yes.
When I think of the Salvation Army, especially around the holidays, I think of the Red Kettle campaign. That's what Salvation Army is known for, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Among other things. But is that your largest fundraiser of the year?
It is. It is. It's our largest annual fundraiser. It's iconic. It's a traditional thing for the Salvation Army. You see everyone out there in their storefronts ringing the bell with the big red pot. And we're just incredibly appreciative of the community. They come, put their change in, put their dollars in, and they support us by supporting the community.
What are some examples of how that money is spent and given back right here in Connecticut?
Sure. So any donation, wherever they are, stays local. So you're in Manchester, stays in Manchester. Greater Hartford community stays in the Greater Hartford community. And that's across all Connecticut as well. And those go towards emergency funds, so helping with rental assistance, with utility assistance, clothing vouchers, if you need furniture, food pantry, soup kitchen. So meeting those basic needs for folks that really just struggle and have to make different priority decisions on, do I pay for food to feed my family, or do I pay for the roof over my house first? And some of those decisions are really difficult for them to make. So we do our best to support, to help offset those costs, and just provide the assistance that they might need in that time.
And unfortunately, right now, there's families that are having to make those difficult decisions that have never had to make those decisions, even during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
It's amazing the impact that inflation is having on so many families right now.
Oh, yeah.
How much money does the Salvation Army hope to raise this year?
This year, specifically for the holiday campaign, we're looking at $850,000. So that's the goal for this year. Certainly, we always hope to make more, because the more money we have, the more we can serve in the community. But $850,000 is our goal for this year.
Is that nationally or locally?
That's locally for Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I just mentioned inflation. Obviously, that's having an impact on families and the need.
It is.
But is that also expected to have an impact on giving?
I think that we've seen here and there in little pockets some of the impact, but I know that no matter what, people will always try and find a way to give. Even if it's a small amount compared to what they've been able to give in the past, people just really have that generosity set in their hearts, and they just want to give some sort of opportunity to give back. So we have seen a little bit of impact, and I think with the pandemic, we did see a shift where a lot of the people who either volunteered or maybe gave during that time, whatever may have occurred during the pandemic that affected them personally and professionally, we kind of saw them on the other side of now being in the need. And for a lot of people, it was really humbling, and they have since come out of it. We've had some really great stories of folks that have experienced that need and then have come back to then, tenfold give it back again. So it's really amazing to see.
You're giving me chills just hearing about it. I remember as a child, my mom would always give me change. It was so much fun to hear that change clinking around in the red kettles. But I think about now with my own kids, I don't usually carry cash around. I don't have a lot of change to give them or even dollar bills to put in the red kettle. Has that changed the way the Salvation Army solicits donations? Because a lot of us just use our credit cards now.
Absolutely. We hear it all the time. Well, we don't carry cash anymore, and I don't carry cash either. So I totally understand. But the Salvation Army has evolved because we want to accommodate people, and we certainly don't want anyone to feel like they can't give just because they don't have cash. But we do have so many different ways now. And on our kettle stands where we're ringing, you'll see a stand, and there's different ways. There's a QR code you can click. There's also Apple Pay and Google Pay, and many of our locations this year will have something called where you could tap to pay. All you do is put your credit card in front of the dollar amount that you're looking to give. Easy peasy, and there you go. You've been able to donate. And so we are definitely trying to make sure we accommodate people so that it's easy to give. They don't feel like they have to go through so many loopholes to do it. And if you have cash, we love it too, because we'll count it up. And we have volunteers that are so diligent about making sure that every dime, every penny is counted. And we do like that iconic and traditional way of it, but we're happy to accommodate and evolve with everyone else as well. So, yeah.
Okay. So this is the one time I'll let my daughter have my credit card so she can swipe or tap. I want to turn your attention to a study published by the BBB Institute. That's the Educational Foundation of Better Business Bureau. It says 59% of people with a household income above $70,000 who stopped giving to charities over the past 5 years agree with the statement. There are people out there with significantly more money who should give to charity instead of me. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think that everybody is kind of in a different phase of life. And I think it depends on, what you have available. And I've just seen so many generous people. They just, even if it's a small amount to a large amount, and over time they see the benefits of what they've given in the past. And I think that increases and changes as they get older maybe and are in a different financial position. And I just think that everyone's kind of on their own time, and we're appreciative for whatever we can have given to us at that time. And I think when they see the impact, like I said, that they've kind of grown with the Salvation Army. Maybe, as you mentioned, when you were little, you gave in a little bit. And so I've had a lot of families that come up to me and say, I gave as a kid, and now I'm a year-round donor. And we're grateful for that, because people see the impact, they see the work we do, they believe in our mission and what we do, and so we're grateful for that.
It makes you feel good to give back, but as you just pointed out, you never know when you might need it yourself.
Yeah.
Another statistic we have from the study is that 77% of boomers who stopped donating said they just couldn't afford to, compared to only 27% of Gen Zers. A majority of them said they didn't donate because they weren't asked. So, of course, this is our future. So how do charities like the Salvation Army best reach these younger generations?
Sure. Well, I think informational outlets like this is always helpful, and we're definitely trying to reach folks on social media. With all the different events that we have going on, we definitely try to reach that mainstream audience as well, and try and find those niches and those gaps that we can fill. But we're always looking for new ways to try and get out there and spread the word. And we work a lot with students and through the colleges and universities, and trying to get them to understand, what it is to get back and give back, and working with a lot of the echelon groups. So we're finding our ways into those areas, but we just hope to continue to find new partners and community partners to work with that are willing to help us spread the word in that way.
Like you said, you just have to grow and evolve. Finances aside, among people with household incomes over 70,000 who stopped donating, the most frequent explanation was not trusting the soliciting charity. So what tips do you have to avoid donation scams?
Sure. I mean, we have run into a few, even recently with our disaster services up in Vermont. I know that there was some issues with a fake Salvation Army scam account. And so we just do our best to make sure we're giving them the proper website. Check our website, because if it's a salvationarmyct.org, you'll definitely know. Anything with a .org for us is an actual website. You'll see our branding, you'll see our names. We always say, click on the little name of the email address, because you can always tell right then and there if you hover over that, if it's a interesting looking name, a very unique and weird symbols and stuff like that. We've had people come to us and say, "Oh, I saw this," and I said, "Definitely not us." So people are on the lookout, I think, and I think they're becoming more aware of these scams and suspicious activity. But our websites are just the best way. You can take a look. I mean, our information is hard to copy, and with the details and some of the very specifics in our locations. So that's the best way that we've been encouraging people to. If they want to give off on our site, that's the best way.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened in Vermont, just so people know that this is out there? I'm
not fully aware of the entire where it originated from, but I do know that people were soliciting donations online online and through a text capacity. And it was during the Vermont floods that occurred, and the Salvation Army was up there. We have Salvation Armies in Vermont, of course, but in that particular region, they were starting to get a bunch of donations. People called in needing a letter saying what they had donated for and how much they donated, and then nobody was responding to their call. And so after inquiring about that, we started finding these different off-branded groups that are unfortunately preying on people during already a vulnerable time.
Right.
So it's disappointing that people have to act that far. It's going to hurt people, and unfortunately it will hurt us sometimes if people are afraid then that we're going off and, trying to scam them, but we're not.
Yeah, and if that money has gone to a scammer, now that money's not available to a real charity, and it's unfortunate, but during times of disaster, that's when people are the most vulnerable to scams. Yes. What we find at Better Business Bureau.
Yep.
So Better Business Bureau actually has some tips just to add to what you're saying. I want to go over some tips to ensure your donation doesn't end up in the pockets of a con artist. So the first is to research before donating. Katie was talking about their website. You definitely want to look for spelling errors and grammatical errors. Even if you see professional photos, that doesn't mean they weren't lifted off a legitimate website. If a nonprofit organization isn't completely transparent, it's impossible to know for sure the money contributed will go to support a good cause. So ask for documentation on how much of that contribution will be used for program services, how much will go to fundraising and management expenses. The second tip is to don't give in to intimidation tactics. If a caller causes discomfort through guilt or uses an urgent plea to give right this minute, if you feel that pressure to give, it's best to simply hang up. Intimidation tactics are often used by scammers. They are certainly a red flag. And be wary of emotional appeals. Marketers have been known to exploit the holidays to make emotional pleas to donors. So do some research first to verify that your selected charity operates ethically. Next, research tax status. Don't assume every organization claiming to do good is a tax-exempt charity. You can actually check an organization's tax status online and make sure your contribution is tax deductible. And finally, check the charity's rating on give.org. For a charity to receive BBB accreditation, it must meet 20 standards of accountability, covering everything from governance to fundraising. If the organization does not appear on BBB's website, that does not mean they are not a real charity, but it can be a warning that you need to do more investigating before you give. And if you've been the victim of a charity scam, help warn others others by reporting it to BBB's Scam Tracker. That's bbb.org/scam tracker. One thing that we always say is, if they say, the appeal includes 100% of your donations goes to charity, there's always some administrative expenses. But you were explaining to me that it's a little different at the Salvation Army, because 100% will go if it was donated directly to a certain disaster, correct?
Yes.
Can you kind of explain that to me?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really proud of that number. So overall, like most charities, there's an administrative fee. We feel really proud of our number being 85% going towards community programs for Connecticut and Rhode Island. But then additionally, when it comes to disasters, when someone designates it directly to a disaster, 100% of those funds go directly to our boots on the ground and what they're doing, whether it's feeding, housing, sheltering, whatever the needs might be, clothing, to meet those direct needs, especially in times of disaster. And again, when they're in a most vulnerable state, 100% of those disaster funds go to them, and we're proud of them.
One of the reasons we invited Salvation Army to be on today is because you are BBB accredited.
Yes.
One of those charities that when you hear of a disaster and we say, make sure you donate to one that already has boots on the ground, one that already is set up to help, Salvation Army is always there. You're always on that list. So
yes, thank you.
That's why we want you here today. Now, there are other options, other ways to donate besides just throwing change in a kettle. You talked about the QR code now, Apple Pay, but can you go over some other options? There's like donor advised funds, real estate gifts. Can you go over some of those other options that people have throughout the year, not just during the holiday season?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have to fund our programs year round, and while this Red Kettle funds the bulk of that, we also have other outlets in different unique ways. And I am not a donor relations specialist, but I can definitely direct you to a place where you will. They have opportunities like donor advised funds, the cash gifts in kind. They have different kind of locations that offer planned giving. So in real estate, different unique opportunities, and you can see all of that information and talk to donor relations specialists about that, where they'll advise you specifically and work with you to your comfort level and what you're looking to donate and how and when, and get you set up for when you're ready to do that.
Okay, now some of us may not have the money to give, but we have the time.
Yes.
So everyone has time, right?
Oh, yes.
You can always give up your time. And you're the volunteer coordinator, as you talked about off the top. So how does someone who wants to get involved with the Salvation Army go about doing so?
Sure. So I always encourage people to go to our website, salvationarmyct.org. You can see how to volunteer in this community. It's got a little heart icon, just another way for someone to give back. But we have a huge list of different opportunities. Specifically now, you'll see a lot of holiday opportunities, such as sorting and organizing and packing toys for families that have registered that are in need of toys, for the Thanksgiving and holiday food baskets, delivering meals on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, bell ringing, of course. We've got loads of holiday opportunities, but also you'll see our year-round, if you want to work in a soup kitchen, do the food pantry year-round, working with a youth program, maybe a senior program, after-school programs. Lots of different opportunities for year-round ways to give of your time, and we're just so grateful for people that want to give of their time and help serve their community in that unique way as well.
And what age do you have to be to give of your time?
So we encourage anybody to volunteer, really, any age. We've had little ones come with their parents. You can start volunteering at the age of 14 by yourself, knowing you'll be under the supervision of a Salvation Army staff member, and parents are always welcome to come if they want to accompany a minor, but we encourage them to get started young and see what it's like to give back and how that impacts the community.
And what is the time commitment?
It's really at your own leisure. We have a variety of opportunities. So even if, for instance, say there's a 4-hour opportunity to work at the food pantry, but you can only give an hour, that's okay. We're happy to take that hour, whatever is most convenient for the volunteers. We want them to not feel pressure to have to give an exact amount of time, but just come at your leisure, see how you like it. If you love it and you want to come back, there's always ways to continue to register and volunteer in different capacities as well. So
I know that you obviously are not only working for the Salvation Army, but you've given back your time too. What has been the most fulfilling, do you think, of what's so fulfilling about being a volunteer, whether it be with the Salvation Army or another organization? What do you get out of it?
I think for me, it's just seeing the impact of what that does for someone in need. I think it can be really difficult for someone to say that they need help. I think that's been, it would be difficult for me to say that as well. I think sometimes you have to come to terms of what's happening in your life, asking for the help. But I think that when they know what's available to them, that there's no discrimination, that there's no judgment, that we want to help and we want to be able to help you in this, terrible time of need, whatever it might be, whether it's just you need help with rent for the month, or you just need some extra food because you've run out of your funds and you need something for the table. We just want people to feel comfortable coming to us and saying, I need this help. And when you can have those personal one-on-one conversations with people when you're volunteering, and it could be just a quick moment of listening to them and letting them vent and maybe letting them cry, and kind of offering just a listening ear to somebody that needs, something to say thank you, or I need help, or how are you doing? No one's asked these things for them sometimes. And there's a lot of stressors on people these days, a lot of anxiety-filled experiences. And I think they just want to come to a safe place, a place where they can get help, where friendly people are at, and they can just have a good experience. And so we want to give them the overall 360, opportunity for us to help. And when you're volunteering, you see that firsthand. So it's really impactful.
Well, Katie, we appreciate the generosity of your time today, and we hope the giving season is good to you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Well, one common charity scam that BBB's Scam Tracker often receives is reports about law enforcement charity scams. This is how it works. You receive a call from someone claiming to represent a nonprofit. In some cases, the charity has a name that includes words like trooper or police. The caller explains that the goal of this nonprofit is to help keep police officers, their families, even police dogs safe. Callers often use intimidation tactics or try to make you feel guilty about not supporting their cause. Any reputable charity will take your donation as much tomorrow as it will today. If the charity won't give you the time to do your research, consider it a red flag. Contact your local, state, or state law enforcement agency and ask how you can support them directly. Remember, most agencies have a nonprofit Friends of type organization and will help to refer you to a more worthwhile option. And no matter how noble an organization's goals may seem, always research the organization before making a pledge. Visit BBB's Wise Giving Alliance, give.org, for more information on charitable giving. We've got all the tips there on charity scams. You can also look up any charity, see if it's accredited, see if it makes the mark and it meets those 20 standards of accreditation. That way you know your money is going to help those who need it the most. Well, we're almost out of time here, but before we wrap up, I want to turn your attention to our BBB holiday website. It's bbb.org/holiday. It's our holiday helper guide. It has a complete list of all the holiday cons out there, as well as tips for holiday shopping. You can find out about porch pirates, about safe online shopping, about tips of what to look for when you're shopping in the store, the hot holiday toy scams. There's just a plethora of information there. So go to bbb.org/holiday and you can find all that information that you need. That does it for Trust Talks. Join us back here in January. We're going to talk about pressure washing, power washing, soft washing. What's the difference? What's the best for your home? We're going to have an expert here to give us a few tips so you can save a little bit of cash while keeping the outside of your home squeaky clean. That does it for us again. We hope to see you in January. In the meantime, have a wonderful holiday season.
The Saybrook Fish House in Canton has been serving fresh seafood, chicken, and steak entrees for 34 years, offering 3 cozy dining room settings, a newly renovated pub with craft beer, wine by the glass, specialty cocktails, and a lighter fare menu. Open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Reservations accepted for parties of 2 to 42, and gift certificates are also available. The Saybrook Fish House, nestled at the crossroads of Route 44, 202, and 179 in Canton.
host, Kurt Barwis. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Andrew Lin.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. My name's Chuck Wooden.
Decision for ourselves for this week, if we want to be made well.
Hi, welcome to the crack of dawn. It's Dawn Lombardi. I'm starting the painting. It's going to be the clips with some water. Love it.
He took me on the sets of Lost in Space, Batman.
Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time,